was alone. Wow, a weird first thought to have. Thomas decided to start listing his observations for posterity. 1. The whole alone thing. 2. Portals. They led somewhere. He'd yet to work out where. 3. Falling. Thomas was absolutely fantastic at falling. He was almost as good at falling as he was at observing. Interesting. Thomas couldn't fall past this block. Think, damn it, think. What if there was some kind of inverted fall? Some way to... what's the word? Jump. It worked! Thomas had solved the great inverted fall mystery. Jump. But Thomas noted there was no real danger in missing it. The world didn't want him to fail here. It was pushing him, but gently. This all seemed a little dangerous. The world was not to be trusted. It was unstable, and it seemed to Thomas that it could let him down at any moment. He was starting to suspect it might even be doing so on purpose. Paranoia. Thomas wondered whether the portals were actually taking him anywhere. He felt like he was making progress, but there wasn't really any way to know. He seemed to be moving predominantly up and to the right, which might or might not be important. It might have been paranoia again, but Thomas could have sworn the world was becoming more complicated. It always seemed to be one step ahead of his skills. It had been designed just for him. He wondered why. Was the world testing him? No, too obvious. Something about the boiling, toxic, glowing water intimidated Thomas. He didn't like it. He certainly didn't want to swim in it. He made another mental note. 4. Water. Not good. To be avoided. The loneliness was getting to Thomas. No amount of observation or obsessive note-taking could combat that. theory. The world was training him. He could feel himself getting smarter. There was the mental list to consider. Over the minutes and seconds since his spontaneous generation, he'd become a pretty skilled jumper. He was evolving. He just wished he had someone to share it with. Chris took an immediate and deep dislike to the skinny red rectangle. Who the hell did this Thomas think he was? Chris had been doing fine. He wasn't the highest jumper, but he'd held his own. He'd even been graceful at times. Well, not technically graceful. It's probably the wrong word, but, you know, fine. There was that skinny little runt leaping about like he owned the place. Okay, this was more like it. A glowy white thing. Only Chris could get to it, which of course made it all the more enticing. What would it do? What new opportunity might this switch open up to him? Great. Another chance for Thomas to jump slightly higher than Chris. How fortunate. Seriously, this made the whole switch pressing thing entirely worthwhile. Was this good? Because on the surface, it did not seem good. Chris was pretty scared. Little Red seemed fine, happy to be on his merry little adventure. Chris couldn't shake the feeling that things had taken a significant turn for the worse since Thomas had joined him. Sure, he'd been able to piggyback his way to ever so slightly higher platforms, but where had that got him? Well, to ever so slightly higher platforms, which was sort of his point. Chris stared at Thomas with pure hatred. He seemed so very happy at their situation. Friends together, a brave fellowship of quadrilaterals on a quest for greatness. That would be fine. But it was all the obvious observation that Thomas was doing which grated. Every time they saw something vaguely new, Chris would... Chris stared at Thomas with pure hatred. He seemed so very happy at their situation. Friends together, a brave fellowship of quadrilaterals on a quest for greatness. That would be fine. But it was all the obvious observation that Thomas was doing which grated. Every time they saw something vaguely new, Chris would hear a satisfied little from the vaulting idiot. He hoped the next portal would split them up, if only for a few levels. John knew. He knew that this was his chance, a moment to shine. This was game day. this would not do. John needed room to show off his exceptional skills. As it was, he was trapped on the wrong side of these little dot things. Where did they come from, anyway? John inhaled the air of the open space, and it smelled of awesome. Time to flex those muscles, to put his training to use, time to show those little dots how it was done. John decided to press the switch to let the little dots catch up with him. John cared for his new allies. You could tell from the sympathetic expression he'd practiced in the mirror all these years. This was interesting. A floating target. This would require coordination, balance, and timing. John was sure the dots would be lost but he was happy to guide them to triumph. Maybe that's what the dots were for. They were there to extend John's reach, to make his performance even more impressive. John liked the thought. He decided to keep them. So, this was how Claire would die. She knew it would happen eventually. She was rubbish at jumping, and she moved slowly. She felt a little like her continued existence was breaking some kind of natural order. The crumbling pillar was a dramatic death, she supposed. Wait, what? Claire couldn't shake the feeling that she was not, in fact, dead. It was at that moment that Claire realised she had superpowers. She'd need a cape. There was no getting around that. You couldn't be a superhero without a cape. Claire didn't want confusion. If you saw a cape, that made matters clear. You knew what you were dealing with. Claire was all about communication. And, you know, floating in water, which was her superpower. Right, fear not, my skinny friends, for I am Claire, and I will save you. Claire needed to come up with a superhero name as soon as possible. Claire was rubbish. arrived just in time, which was, of course, the perfect moment for superheroes to arrive. As the water began to rise, Claire vowed to save this little rectangle in as many restarts as it took. Claire wondered if Thomas would make a good sidekick. Or was she more the lone Avenger type? She'd like that. The sole hero in a world of rectangles and conveniently placed pools of toxic water. Told Claire that staircases were a bit of a fixture here. Claire wondered why the world made it so difficult. Probably needed a nemesis, a villain who would show their true colours at the worst possible moment, hurting all she held dear. Chris was the most obvious choice. He seemed stroppy enough, and his jump was so pathetic that it conveniently avoided Claire's insecurities. Yes, Chris. Diabolical Chris. The fiendish Christopher. Wait, where had Chris gone? Was he off somewhere, plotting Claire's downfall? If Claire was honest, and she had to be because she was a superhero, this was a troubling turn of events. Still, there were reasonably sized bodies of water to cross. Platforms over water, eh? Claire's newly heightened senses told her that there were multiple paths across with various possible configurations of the little posse. They were doing really well. Claire hoped she could get them all across. John was fully aware he could do this alone. Thomas hoped he'd never have to. Claire was alone, which was odd, because she wasn't meant to be alone. She needed to be where there were rectangles to save. Being the only superhero in a given space kind of defeats the object. Spikes? That was new. Claire avoided them. She decided they were most likely her kryptonite. Not the rubbish red kryptonite either, the proper radioactive green stuff. repeating, and this time Thomas was here. Claire felt something had gone wrong. There was a disturbance in the force. Something had altered the matrix. The world was reacting to their progress. It was amassing its forces. It was plotting against them. Claire finally had a nemesis. Repeating, and this time Thomas was here. Claire felt something had gone wrong. There was a disturbance in the force. Something had altered the matrix. The world was reacting to their progress. It was amassing its forces. It was plotting against them. Claire finally had a nemesis.
How do, ladies and gents, and welcome to Saturday Storytime. And today we have Thomas Was Alone, the first 3 chapters, or 2 if you count 0 as a prologue. It's debatable. It's the 0, 1 and 2. Spawn, Array and Origin. So in this series, in case you didn't see the first episode, which was on Super Hot, you can check that out if you want to check it out. What I do in this series is I'm just going to play through the game, and I'm not going to commentate over it. I'm just going to play it and record it, and then discuss it with you at the end, which is what we're doing here. This game's quite long. If I were to do it in one video, it'd probably last about 4 or 5 hours, which is a long video, far too long. So I've segmented it. I'm going to do it in chunks of 2 or 3 chapters at a time. This one is the first 3 or 2. So the game, Thomas Was Alone. I've played a little bit further than this so far. I've not completed it yet, and I'm loving it so far. Just by the way, a note on the series, I probably should have said this a second ago. I'll be playing these games for the first time. So if you haven't played these games before either, you'll be seeing it for the first time, same as me. And then I'll discuss my impressions with you afterwards. So this game ticks a lot of boxes for me. Things I like in a game. I like minimalist, simplistic design. Tick. I like a story that engages without being overcomplicated. Tick. I like platforming puzzles with the right mixture of originality and difficulty. You don't want it to be too difficult or too easy, and you don't want it to be the same as a million other games. This definitely isn't that. 3 big thumbs up from me right off the bat. So this game has won award after award after award after award. It's won everything for its design, for its story. The man who does the voiceover won a BAFTA for that work. It's brilliant. I'm really excited to keep playing this, and I will do. It's Friday, by the way, as I'm recording this, and over the weekend I'm going to finish this. The following episodes will be released in the coming days, and I'm really excited to continue playing this game, and that's possibly the biggest compliment you can pay a game, isn't it? That when you play the first part of it, you want to continue, and that really is what the first part of a game should be. It's supposed to draw you in to the characters and make you want to continue on with their story. And I played this, the footage you see, and I played this last night as I'm speaking, and I spent all day at work thinking about it and wanted to come home and play it. So I'm going to finish it, and I will show you the results, and I'll have a chat with you about it in those videos. I was going to go into more depth about the characters, but this is going to be segmented into a few videos, like I say, so I've got plenty of discussion segments with you in upcoming videos where I'll go into more depth about the characters, because I think there's another character that gets introduced in the chapter after Origin, so all the characters aren't yet in it. So I think in the next video will be the one where I'll discuss the characters with you and why I think they're so great. But for now, I think that's all we'll call it with this video, with this first part of Thomas Was Alone. So far, I can see why it's had the reviews and awards that it's had. It's looking brilliant, it's drawn me in, I want to keep playing it, can't wait to complete it, and I'll show you. So, if you liked the video, hit like. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. And if you didn't like it, leave a comment telling me why I'm still new at this. So thank you, and until next time, see ya.